Hello everybody! We have officially 4 days until Javelin is released, and we also have the essays. I swear I almost missed this because, I don't know, it wasn't so obvious to me. Okay, and big round of applause for me because I figured out how to show you my full screen. Hello everybody, this is just a side note that when I said that I had fixed the OBS is like the screen capturing software I'm using. When I said I had fixed the problem, I had not. For those that use it or care, I had the camera and the screen sources locked, and so I thought that the moving it around just wasn't working. Okay, but we figured it out, so just bear with me. You guys are here for some rough beginnings, but we're figuring it out. So yeah, the first 4 essays are quite zoomed in, and I fixed it at essay number 5. So yes, that is our situation. In the words of Juno Burge, that's happening. Okay, shall we continue? You will just see at some point that it gets fixed. Okay, thank you so much for sticking with me this time. Last time it was a little bit of a struggle. It was just, one corner, but we made it work. Okay, so I was browsing on Instagram, waiting for my daughter to fall asleep, when I saw that Asthmatic Kitty posted one of his essays. Then they posted the full essay in the comments, and then at the bottom of the comments they said, just very casually, that all of the essays were out on another magazine. Which magazine? Not this magazine. It's another magazine. No, it's this magazine. Okay. Crickets. Okay, brilliant things to do this October. I'm intrigued, but I'm not going to click on that. Because if you notice right below, under design and living, another guide. Man, they just published another guide and another to-do list. I've got enough to do. Maybe that's why they're interested, is because he created the art himself. But hello, Sufjan. Okay, I love the textures. What does it remind me of? I feel like as a kid I had some paint program could make paint like this, but I just love it, so I feel like I could touch it. And there's so many layers. That's really cool. Okay, we're appreciating the art. We have roses. I don't know what kind of flower that is. We have snow, a pair of beautiful green eyes. I don't know what kind of flower that is. Okay, exclusive. Read 10 heart-rendering essays about love by Sufjan Stevens. If I'm a little distracted, it's because I'm also a member of the Beehive. And today is a big day for us because Beyonce announced the movie. So I need to transition from my Beyonce brain right now. I need to let Renaissance go for a while because the movie's not even gonna be in Europe for quite a while, I'm sure. Might never be in a theater. So I need to let go of my Beyonce brain. I need to focus on Sufjan. I need to get excited about Sufjan because this is really exciting. Okay, it's autumn. It finally feels like fall. We're in October. The temperatures are getting higher, but it's not hot because there's still a cold undertone. So yeah, I'm just setting the vibes for this album. I wonder if this album feels autumny, and that's why he's releasing it in October. Okay, as the elusive singer and songwriter. Okay, elusive. His new album, Javelin, he shares 10 poetic, profound, and highly personal mini essays. See, I don't agree it's highly personal, but okay, I skimmed through them. I'm not going to pretend this is my first time looking at them. I skimmed through them, but it was on my phone and I didn't have my glasses. So, mini essays that he wrote for a booklet that accompanies the record. October 2nd, 2023, that's today. Text Sufjan Stevens, lead image, Asthmatic Kitty. These words are taken from a 48-page booklet of original art and essays by Sufjan Stevens, which comes with the vinyl. Not true. Comes with CD. Asthmatic Kitty also in the Instagram post made sure to say it was with all physical editions of the album, Javelin. So, out October 6th. 1. But yeah, so if you don't want spoilers for these essays, then you can wait. I kind of was excited to wait until I opened my vinyl. I guess this means now I don't need to open my vinyl, which is kind of nice because I don't actually have a good record player right now. So if I could keep it wrapped up for a while, I think that's probably better. Okay, this is really interesting. They're really... Okay, if you don't want to spoil them for yourself, they are really abstract. So it's not what I was expecting at all. I was expecting more of his previous essays, what we've had on the internet from him, what are really real stories kind of. This is very abstract, I would say. But I haven't heard the album yet, so I'm really wondering how they intertwine with the album and if it brings another level of understanding to that. I'm also wondering how personal they are or if it's all an allegory. I am reminded of the times I was a kid and we had a nice record player because it was the 90s, and I would look at the booklet or the page that came with the album. We had some kid albums, and I would just sit with these huge headphones and listen to the record and look at the vinyl cover and the art inside. And I would go on to do that with CDs, just read the lyrics, listening to CDs in my room. It just reminds me of that kind of experience, which we don't get so much anymore. However, this age of music, I feel like artists are getting back into the art of it. So for a while, it was just all singles and not so much cohesive works, but then we got Renaissance. And also House in Nebraska. Who's that artist? House in Nebraska. Who's that artist? Ethel Cain. I haven't listened to this album because I'm not in the right headspace for labored breaths and bed sores. Okay, I'm not in the headspace for that right now. But one day I will listen to this album because I believe it is a timeless piece of cohesive work. And I feel like I don't know, it's a concept album. This one is, I think. And I used to like those a lot when I was in high school, where it was a cohesive story through the whole album. I'm forgetting the one I used to listen to all the time around 2008, this kind of era. I don't know. Something if there's a ship or water, or I don't know. I don't even know. I'm not in the headspace to get into that kind of thing right now. But my point is that I feel like artists are kind of getting back into the cohesive album thing. We had Renaissance. Doja Cat just released Scarlet, which is a cohesive piece of work. There's also a story. I like when albums, these days, because I don't have the time or the angst to dedicate listening through 20 songs of one story. And I like when there is a theme. Sufjan always has a theme. That was enough of whatever that was. So let's get into the essays. I'm just going to read this one out loud and I'm going to see how it goes if I'm going to continue. My love. 1. My love. My love was an involuntary sound. The music of the spheres. A subdued white noise shuddering of my heart. A fluster of hummingbird vibrations that I could taste in the prenatal hemispheres of my mouth, body against body. and brain against brain. Two conjoined selves conjuring an offshore thunderstorm in the horizontal distance, dazzling with flashes of metallic music and elemental chaos in the safe harbor of my mother's womb. There was no light and no dark, no semblance of a simile or a semaphore. There was only the blurred and audible presence of a distant and divine voice, hovering above the waters where I balanced between the prism of absence and presence, on an inflatable dirigible of sea foam, wandering into the olaginous abyss with a half smile of hazardry and wizardry, my maiden voyage into the unbeknownst of oblivion. For what did I really know at this point in my primordial mindlessness? Nothing at all. I was struck dumb, created from ignorance and ether, first without function or features, and then without order or form. I was sensation and consciousness postponed, a wet and placid portion of monotonous fruit cut into quarters, awaiting heaven's blessing. My only occupation at this point was to occupy, be occupied, preoccupy, and prevail nature in a womb world of benevolence and buoyancy. The music of the heartbeat of the universe danced me to sleep. Within this realm I was love and life supreme, undivided by thought, word, and deed, a small promise kept until the act of doing would undo me for good. My birth was my undoing. And then I was born into oblivion. Okay, I kind of like it the second time I read it. I remember in college falling in love for the first time. 2 spring months of rapture, residing on the tail end of a helium balloon. I was so giddy about everything, washing the dishes, tying my shoes, scrambling eggs, binding books. Of course he knows how to bookbind, Jesus Christ. Pulling berries off juniper trees. My infatuation had such an arrogant persuasion on the world around me. Everything as metaphor, ascribed with romance. I remember while mowing lawns on the college campus finding an injured fledgling crow by the dining hall. I carried it to the biology lab where we called a woman who ran animal security from her home. She met us on a bike with a wicker basket. "You are doing the universe a great favor," she said, holding the bird to her breast like Mother Goose. The event provided endless fodder for prose, poems, and folk songs, and long conversations on the roof of the aspirin factory, where we got drunk on Boone's Farm sangria. Boone's Farm also has a strawberry wine, I think. Speculating on cosmic intentions and the order of the universe. So much meaning, so little time. I was young and dumb and in love, guided by a perverse curiosity and a voracious sensation of the imagination pivoting at the tip of my tongue. I marveled at the mysteries of life laid out before me, awaiting in the calm commotion before innocence and experience. Isn't that what it is to be 18 to 22, maybe up to 24, where everything is a metaphor? Everything has more meaning. Sometimes I miss those days where I could just walk in the city listening to Sufjan and just worlds upon worlds upon worlds of thought and just looking at everything with so much wonder. 3. A weapon. I guess we're just gonna read. And then experience pummeled me. Many years later, after the long suffering exhaustion of life had driven me into the bleak underbelly of realism. Isn't that the truth? My most profound thought was sad and static, that nothing really matters, nobody loves me, and loneliness would always be my most devoted companion. You know what? I think these are actually personal. The first time I read it, I thought it was all metaphor, but now that I'm reading it more slowly, it's very relatable. I mean, Sufjan's much older than me. He's older than me by at least a decade, I think. But it's funny that I think this is kind of the motions we go through. And it's funny that this is like really all the emotions his music brought me through and carried me through these times. I think I said that in my last video, that he really, like, you know, kept me grounded in my adolescence. Okay. Oh. Did I finish that sentence? I want to read it again. That nothing really matters, nobody loves me, and loneliness would always be my most devoted companion. In my new sobering worldview, absent of love, I began to encounter everything as an object without meaning, without modifier. The homeless man selling day-old newspapers on the subway was just a homeless man selling day-old newspapers on the subway. There was no metaphor, no rapture, no cosmic intentions. I had to ask myself, does this make the man, the newspaper, the subway, or myself any less meaningful? No, quite the opposite. For what resided in that substantial vacancy where I was always prone to symbolize the world to death is exactly what I needed right then. Opportunity, presence of mind, peace on earth, stable stoicism, absence of metaphor, responsibility, and hard facts. That was my prayers, to shake off the doting artistry of an over-eager poet with the proclivity to create dreams from doldrums, to approach the world as a concrete object, a thing to be held, not a thing to behold, or allegorized, to remain at peace and in careful jurisprudence in spite of the resentful inundation of my overarching loneliness that devastated innocent bystanders with all Okay, sorry. Okay. Sufjan's essays always make me laugh. I think it's probably, they always make everyone laugh because he's so funny. Okay. I need to regain my composure because I'm not actually sure what he's talking about, but I just imagine okay. Because we are the devastated innocent bystanders subjected to this and his music. Okay, hold on. Okay, a thing not to behold or allegorized. Okay, so I take that back, that these essays are allegories. Sorry, Sufjan. To remain at peace and in careful, I don't know, I would make myself say that word another time, in careful jurisprudence, in spite of the resentful inundation of my overarching loneliness that devastated innocent bystanders with all the magic castles of the imagination. I told myself I must snuff out the candle of candy corn dreams. Okay, October, Halloween, candy corn dreams. I must soldier on like a dead-end daydream, undeterred. I must be steadfast in the stolid presence, an essence of common sense and survival. I must be true to life internal and reside in resignation at last. I feel like this is a peek into his brain I never imagined I would get. And I wish I knew when this was, but it must be like when he was making albums, because it's, you know, in New York. But I too went through something similar. Well, you know what? I'm in something like this now where I did come out of that time where everything was so wonderful. And I mean, like, wonderful in that I had so much, like, wonder for everything. And I still do, but it's not the same. I don't feel the same, like, aching longingness when I look at a sunset in the city. I still appreciate it and I still think it's beautiful, but I'm not, like, devastated by it. And I think I could get back to that place again. I think I don't want to, because I was also extremely lonely. I've built a beautiful life for myself since then, because I kind of, I mean, it was like, you know, it's not like I just one day was like stopped being like that it was, a slow progression. And I used to write music as well. And it's funny that the less wondrous I became, the less need I had to make this music. So, yeah. I mean, I still want to, but... Okay, let's continue. Oh, we have this. Okay, courtesy of Asthmatic Kitty. Thank you. Okay, also, if you don't know this, and you are also a musician, the silver and gold Christmas music set, it's all copyright free. Put it in the public domain. That is one of the coolest things that a music label or artist has ever done. Like, however so many songs there are, like 60. We have some women, looks like out of a sewing catalog, more women out of catalogs, and Sufjan, and I feel like I should know who that is, but I don't. My second love was less ecstatic, but more tragic. The gift of sight, an elemental flash of lightning, which struck me like a bag of metal shavings thrown out onto ice, reflecting back at the centerpiece of my sternum. A sucker punch to the chest. My cold consciousness came into sharp focus, rattled by illuminating waves invading everything around me. The light was loud and extraordinary, and even with my eyes closed, my pupils began pontificating at the pornography of sight, and I was momentarily carved into madness. Seeing is believing is birth. Seeing is believing is birth, okay? I shuddered and shirked at the tangible evidence of something else, the others. Is he talking about being perceived? The imposition of a sensation outside myself in which everything was separated into opposable armies, the land from the waters, the air from the earth, the seasons from the doldrums, and the seen from the unseen, sin from sainthood, light from dark, good from evil. Bend the light, bend the truth, bend the king bee energy. Still fine, still a 10. Everything was put in its place by the curse of namesake. Everything has a name. The world was now before me, beneath me, above me, and ultimately against me. A pressure foot pressed down on all sides. I felt a cold claustrophobia and a cold consciousness before. Okay. Empty and alone, transnatal and tragic, baffled by the violence of this new environmental context, and to think I was just a silly bean sprout of a thing shivering under the medical lights, squirming like an open earthworm. Jeez. Now tasked with this terrible act of naming. God gave me a pen and a pad of parchment paper. Transcribe your feelings and your findings, she said. God is a woman. Do your thing. First thought, best thought. I did as I was commanded, a dutiful sea urchin inching its way to the possibility of words and wisdom. Okay, so the first love was in the womb, the sound of the... And the second love was sight. God is a woman. God told Sufjan to record what you see. Record that shit. Okay, essay number 5. On to. A world without language was once the indication of certain death. Soundless, voiceless, nameless vapor. A typography of empty vessel. The void. But now, what of the tragedy of names spoken into existence with the demystification of words? I was culprit and complicit, identifying all the divergences, differentiations, variations, permutations, diversities, dichotomies, and double entendres. Categorizing the animals, cutting them down to size, organizing the parts of the body with the parts of speech, a fanatical grammar game of possession, domination, and death. Drama. I had to ask myself, Is this manner of identification in the name of higher knowledge, even if it disregards purpose, analysis, and compassion? Observation absent of intention. And how could it be undertaken without idolatry and ulterior motive? I desired the objectivity of the photography of the baby brain, whose fuzzy visionary reception was a delightful nebula of perfumed consciousness and joy. Perfumed consciousness. I wanted to see the world coherently and without discernment, reduction, and deduction. Unintelligible intelligence. Okay, overthinker. So am I, it's okay. Instead, I began to perceive how intimate knowledge generates prosperity, fullness, and progeny, fruitfulness, of ideas and offspring. To be made known was to be consummated. Okay, I'm not going to do any emotions. Adam knew Eve. Okay, yeah, when I went to Bible college once, and I feel like they taught us that knew Eve was like, he knew her, and she knew him, if you know, yeah. Intercourse as discourse, knowledge as physical sexual engagement. To know someone was to take possession, to gain access in confidence and with confidentiality. The exchange would potentially unveil the secret knowledge between lovers. The nominative ordinances of arousal. Okay, we're going wherein posterity would become the observable antecedents of the sacred wisdom, and pleasure would be its misfortune. Of infatuation and love, of chaos and order. Okay, make that the title of my memoir, please. Of infatuation and love, of chaos and order. My sexual discourse began to die a slow death of observation and objectification, a nonsense category of substances seen and deemed believable, predicating a cosmic break from the universe, a psychic rebirth from which invisible things transformed into figures of speech, wherein figures of speech were left dead in the wake of rivulets and rivers, drowning into a molten waterfall of dread, where they would meet their maker in linguistic whimsy. Is he saying he was a late bloomer? My death was a new life. My reincarnation, reverse sublimation. I was made known. Therefore, I knew nothing. I am speechless. Okay. Shall we continue? The. For a short time, my pet peeves were my shortcomings. Dry skin in the morning, brushing off the bed sheets with bits of outer insulation from my body. Was I molting? I needed to drink more bitter herbs, I thought. I had chronic stomach pain, below the clavicle, a small fist of air. Sweet and acid mint leaves, fennel seed tea. Invisible anxiety. The pain in my leg, a hypochondriac's dream. Soothing myself with palm oil and camphor. Small applications on the surface. Is he me? I'm always worried I'm getting sick or something, and then when I am sick, I'm like, oh, now I can take care of myself. Extra. Small applications on the surface. At dinner with guests, supplementing aspirin with ice water, saying very little otherwise, a friend agreed with everyone's assessment. Yes, sometimes you are cold and unfeeling. You could warm up a little. My apparent coolness, okay, this is like the 4th or 5th time he's used the word cool or cold. Was it a matter of objective safety? That remote vacancy which I brought to every engagement, keeping the world at arm's length, the anthropologist's vantage point, sustaining the presumptive. Was that my vocation? The judicious spectator, an odd outlier, outlining all this activity while staying behind the line of sight. As the youngest You know, it's the same thing I have with Van Gogh. I don't know if we have a lot of similarities or I just pull out the similarities. But sometimes, like, this just feels too familiar. Maybe he tapped into some, like, universal humanness, but I feel like, okay, I'm also the youngest child. Anyway, okay. As the youngest sibling, I was always evaluating my older sisters with fierce judgment from the corner of the room, just out of reach, eavesdropping on phone conversations, catching glimpses of padded bras, curling irons, and maxi pads passed between casual doorways, taking stock of the panoply of premature adulthood, teenage pregnancy, unruly rebellion, sneaking out at night, clumsy and combative excursions with our wicked stepmother, cat fights with elegantly fingernailed fisticuffs. I watched from a dutiful distance, careful not to engage, harboring a catalogue of tragicomic events and all their moral assessments in order to avoid the worst case scenario for myself. I did the same thing. Okay. I was in the world, but not of it. I learned from the mistakes of others that I was nothing more than a mistake waiting to happen, potential energy. This is hitting a little too close to home. I learned from the mistletoe to keep watch overhead so as to avoid the dangling modifier of accidental affection. I learned from the stone of my shoe to keep walking through the pain with a staggering refrain in my step, a constant reminder of the brokenness of my body and the indefatigable. I mean, not able to be fatigued, right? How the fuck do you say that? Indefatigable. Self-loathing of my own self-consciousness. I can't wait to touch these with my own grimy little hands. Okay. Oblivion. My third love was a surprise affection. Ticklish touching and tender swaddles of terry towels and cotton cloth, wrapped in armfuls of goose down feathers, transfixed in the careful undertaking of childcare. I was an object to be objectified, a thing to squeeze and prickle, caress, and carry about in a breadbasket. I grew from a pine cone to a pine tree, from a newt to a dinosaur, from a poppy seed to a poppy flower, bursting with fireworks. This love then transferred its fornications into something wet, wild, and ornithological. A flying, feathery python ascending to its countenance as a bastion of bridegrooms in a flaming Avery chariot of leathery kisses all aimed at my elbows. Hope is a thing with bird feeders. So I watched the feathered fowl crowd around the seeds and suit grubs and grains with dinosaur intensity. Okay. And suit grubs and grains with dinosaur intensity. Beaks and claws, doing their vast prehistoric business with messy execution. My lovers cawed at their community of plummy mishaps, like transcendental mother hens. Nuthatch and creeper, tanager and titmouse, blue jay and junco gallivanting together like an armful of woolen thrown blankets, clapping the dust from their ornamental features. Okay, I just saw a meme. I need to talk about it. Birds are just named stuff like hot-breasted MILF, and no one does anything about it. That's a tweet. Okay. I sent that to my friend who knows a lot about birds because I was like telling her about the bird activity in my neighborhood, and she's like, oh, you probably have some something there. I was like, excuse me, what? Our fairy dance of foreplay lasted for days. Cat calls as bird song with balloons. Iambic I used to know how to say that. Iambic pentameter poems. That's Shakespeare, right? Chimes that rhymed with clanging crystals hung on fishing line. And all the fanciful costumes with sequins and fringe. Flowered bell-bottoms, metallic bodysuits. Okay, Beyonce. Reggae music, ballroom dancing, charm bracelets, diamond rings, glimmering little earrings with fly fishing ornaments, and, on the last day, a very long and serious monologue about global warming. Our lovemaking was quick and witty, a little slutty and clumsy, nothing more than a jaunt, a quick choreography of slaps and body slams, 2 pigeons in a mosh pit working things out in juvenilia. Nature had done its work. Awkward, we lounged together in the afterglow with soft pillow talk and dreams of nest eggs and parenting, protecting, foraging, feeding, and changing diapers, all the domestic labors of love. But for now, in a warm bird bath, stunning ourselves with a glistening glow, I could only think of my sweet bliss of here and now, the wetness of loving kisses on my nape, my neck, my back, my rump, my foreshortened wings, and a sweet nectar nightcap. Hope is a thing deferred, but a dream fulfilled is a tree of life. Okay, Shakespeare making his own quotes out here. 8 of. My 4th love was peripatetic, a suitcase stored in an overhead bin on an airplane. Things beget responsibilities. I procrastinated my life by traveling far from it. A day before the voyage, I stayed up late in the polar forces of the night, diligently packing the baggage on the couch, opened up like a can of tuna fish, a glass of lemon juice on the nightstand, master cleanse, the Siamese cat washing itself, the dollar store dishes in the sink, my dirty clothes in a paper bag. The last time I had left for this kind of trip, my things were in boxes in one room on the 2nd floor of a gated townhouse in God knows where, New York. Now everything had been transferred as in a swap meet, boxes upon boxes, things upon things, other voices, other rooms. The living room was a labyrinth of speculative journeys, a crossword puzzle of travel prompts. Outside, gale force winds rose to the occasion, knocking on the windows like unwanted guests. I imagined the weather overtaking everything in an apocalyptic frenzy, cups and saucers trembling in tongues, plastic wrap coming undone in a transparent wedding train, pillowcases falling over our heads like hard hats, ceiling fans circumnavigating the neighborhood like helicopter rides, the colored crayons on the kitchen shelf thrown asunder to make slapdash hieroglyphics all over the window panes, the mysterious penmanship of the gods. My mind was preoccupied by disaster, a force majeure, an act of God, a ball of yarn, and the 4 horses of the apocalypse. If you are a Sufjan lore, what's the word for someone who goes to college or learns things? A Sufjan lore scholar. Thank you. You know that ball of yarns here could be referencing the Waldorf schools, where instead of being forced to learn to read, they could knit and play with balls of yarn. Okay, the 4 horses of the apocalypse. I wanted nothing of it, this origami suitcase lifestyle of travel and transition. I wanted to be here and now. I wanted silence, solace, and stillness. I wanted the simplest of things, a bowl of vanilla ice cream, a warm bath, and a quiet place to sit and stitch my handcrafted cross-stitch of rainbows and sailboats, framing a sexy cartoon portrait of Dionne Warwick, diligently working the lines for the Psychic Friends Network from way back in the 1990s, when every solution to every problem was just a phone call away. Oblivion of. I like how these ones are almost, it looks like mirrors. I love these kind of rugs. Okay. Skin. 9, your last 2. History repeats itself, defeats itself, cheats itself, berates and beats itself. I am not historic. I am histrionics. I must hate my mother and my father. I must hate myself and take up the cross and be born again. In this way, my 5th love was an immutable shadow following me with sticky tricks and schemes, a cancerous contamination of the mind that could only be cured with the deadly venom of a cone snail. I couldn't quite shake it, the cobalt blue memory of a ghost haunting my sophistry. A prescient reminder that the knowledge of faith and the substance of hope were right behind me this entire time, and not something to pursue or follow like an ornamental object on the horizon, dazzling, elusive, and alive in the distant future. The divine inside was a previously known encounter. I could never see it face to face, but only feel it in my shadow, the former patterns of an aura left behind, pushing forward, pursuing, persuading, steering, and navigating my memory through the valley of the shadow of death. Okay. As someone who also grew up religious and went to a Christian Bible college for about a year and a half, out of necessity, that's a story for another time. I was just talking to another friend who also went to that school and who has similarly moved on from how they were brought up religiously, that this is like so real. The divine inside was a previously known encounter. Okay. I wanted so desperately to have and to hold the real substance of things, evidence, the physical, intimate engagement with the body and the blood, which I actively sought out in transcendental activity, prayer and supplication, the sacraments, the feasts of the saints, a metaphysical substance to salivate and sublimate with the natural order of things. I love when people use biblical words and they're like, well, I guess Sufjan still said he thinks of himself as a Christian. I don't know. But I love biblical words in non-biblical contexts. But this was a false pretense. God is not natural, but supernatural. The real material of divinity is ineffable, unassailable, unknowable, unutterable, and unreal. The evidence of providence is not within our line of sight, nor within our grasp, but instead beyond and behind our physical kinesphere. I don't know what that word means, but I want to, because it sounds nice. It is unapproachable, unspeakable, unobservable, and ultimately erstwhile. And yet still we continue to feel it under our skin and within the universe of our own personal history. The past, the repossessed. God is our delayed consciousness, like deja vu maybe? The nameless, faceless dichotomy of our secret truth. We are made in its indistinguishable appearance. Therefore, our own true image is without a name or face. Wasn't he talking about earlier, like naming things? And yeah, okay. A baseless, shapeless cloud hovering above the waters. A countenance of empty atmosphere signifying nothing. A gothic apparition. A vision of love. A dance of the eternal travesty of life. A burrowing beetle of impenetrating curiosity. Digging for the true grit of life in the eternal dirt of the universe. You know, there are so many quotes of Sufjan's that stick with me and that I quote and I repeat, and they come back to me over time from his Tumblr, from his shows, from his essays. I think this will be another one. Digging for the true grit of life and the eternal dirt of the universe. It kind of reminds me of this Meditations in an Emergency. Some other sign of life. Let's see. But his essays kind of remind me of this poem. However, I have never clogged myself with the praises of pastoral life, nor with nostalgia for an innocent past of perverted acts and pastures. No, one need never leave the confines of New York to get all the greenery one wishes. I can't even enjoy a blade of grass until I know there's a subway handy, or a record store, or some other sign that people do not totally regret life. It is more important to affirm the least sincere The clouds get enough attention as it is, and even they continue to pass. Do they know what they're missing? You know what? This really reminds me. I am the least difficult of all men. All I want is boundless love. Okay, so if you've never read Meditations in an Emergency by Frank O'Hara, chapter 10, or essay 10, last one. Okay. My last love was a kind of science fiction. I was out running errands at the mall when I saw a fleet of lampshades falling like flying saucers from the sky. The alien robots came to me in an escalating beam of light and said, "We come in peace. The obverse seeks to make its face shine upon you, while the inverse hides its shame." They did their thing with my body, prodding and poking around for some good news. But at first, I would have none of it. I struggled and squirmed under nylon restraints, strapped into a stainless steel operating table. I was a basket case of curmudgeonly vitriol, pointing out everything that was wrong with the world around me. Fossil fuels, cancer, money, greed, sales tax, frozen yogurt. Okay, is that a Demi Lovato reference? And then it ruined the rest of my weekend. Religion, varicose veins, junk mail. But the alien robots were unflappable. They said, "We just need a little DNA, not a diatribe," while swabbing the insides of my mouth with a cottoned Q-tip. Then after careful intubation and a slow drip of anesthesia, I eased into the abyss. They removed my clothes and covered my body with a marshmallowy spray foam. They swaddled me in a warm cocoon of maroon goo, where I remained in stasis to the end of the ages, slowly resuming into the soft, pillowy features of my former self, prenatal, premature, preconceived. A slippery and succulent primordial membrane of soupy warmth and illuminating agency awaiting, once again, the cosmic journey laid out before me like a yellow brick road of possibilities. The secret oblivion of love, the unbeknownst. Within this pinprick vision, I saw a tapestry of afterbirth and afterglow, as an addendum to the immaculate. I saw a tapestry of afterbirth and afterglow, as an addendum to an immaculate afterthought of rapturous joy. I was born again in fullness and truth. I was a peanut. I was a pretzel. I was a pan-fried shrimp. I was pandemonium personified. I was once again myself, waiting to happen again and again and again and again and again until the end. I can't wait to listen to the album. I think that's okay. So I wasn't totally off base when I said that I think it's a little bit allegorical. Okay, so yes, obviously he doesn't remember being in the womb, and the alien thing is like, unique. You know what? I need to highlight some words. Don't know what this means. This, I don't know. My love is a weapon thrown onto the oblivion of your body. Oh my god. Okay, so if you stuck with me through that whole time, are you okay? Because I'm not now. This was like, wow. I'm really excited to read that again after listening to the album. We have 4 days, guys. Again, the next showings are tomorrow, right? Maybe today. I think it was on the 3rd was the next North American listening party. So please, 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 if you go, let me know how it is. Did you buy a vinyl there? Did you buy a CD? Did you get any posters, or they had some merch, right? If anyone has ordered a sweatshirt, I want to see, or not see, I guess you can't really show me. I want to know what it's like, if it's comfy, if it's nice. I did order my vinyl finally. You know, these essays might not be truly personal, but what he's sharing on his Tumblr sure is. Oh, we should look at his Tumblr really fast, Sufjan.com. Because on Reddit, they made it sound like he was posting his piss like every day. So I want to count. We can do a drinking game. I'll drink my water whenever there's. Okay, so this is the first one. 1, baby steps. Emma, sweet potatoes. Okay, cutie. 2, color therapy. None there. Pretty art. Okay, there's only 3. They made it sound like it was, I mean, 3 is more than enough, but okay. Super stoked about my new medicine. Copyright. Stainless steel toilet commode with padded seats and drop down armrest. Number 2 is number 1 in acute rehab. Keep it moving. XOS. XOs. 5 hours ago, guys, this is breaking news. If you've ever been in a hospital for longer than 2 days, you know the truth of this statement. It's rough out there. Okay, we don't need to talk about that, but yeah, he's telling the truth. He speaks the facts. We almost made it. I need to get into my Sufjan era now. Yeah, thanks for sticking around. If you like this video, like and subscribe. Could even turn on notifications to get notified about the next video. Yeah, and thank you for sticking around through this like technical journey, because I'm not like inept with technology, but this is like something entirely new for me, all these new moving parts. I mean, thank God for OBS though. If you want to make your own YouTube videos and you don't know about OBS, use it. It's free and you can screen record and stuff. So yeah, I think like a lot of podcasters use it, and it's really like, it takes a minute to figure out how to set everything up, but once you realize it, then it's like super helpful. It's really cool. Be well. Sending all our love to Sufjan and to each other. As Vincent van Gogh says, giving you a handshake in my thoughts. Sincerely, Jade. Okay. Bye everyone. See you on the flip side, which is when Javelin releases in 4 days. Okay, bye.